Here, I'll put that right here for him.
No, we will speak clearly into the buffalo. All right, fantastic. First and foremost, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jack Curtis. I am the chairman, and as Sally is fond of saying, the president of the United Kansas Party. We appreciate the opportunity to be able to come into your area, your community, and be able to speak about what we think is a great opportunity that we're hoping to present, not just to folks in one side of the state or the other, but all across this great state that we're able to call home. We'll go into a little bit of who we are as United Kansas, why we felt the need to set up this new party, and all the ins and outs that goes along with that. First and foremost, I do want to announce that unfortunately Don Heineman was not able to make it out this morning. He had a family emergency, and we are keeping Don and Scott Morris in our thoughts and prayers as they're both going through this time. Steve Morris, excuse me, right. Don and Steve. All right, are we ready to get into it?
You just go right ahead.
Fantastic, all right. I promise I won't stand for the entirety of it. So a little bit of background about myself. As I said, my name is Jack Curtis. I have a degree in political science from Kansas State University, where I spent 4 wonderful years getting my degree. I graduated high school out of the Lansing, Kansas area, right outside of Kansas City, where my dad retired in 2011 from Fort Leavenworth from active duty from the United States Army. Both my parents served, and at a very young age instilled in all of my siblings and I the belief in a strong work ethic, serving others, and whenever you see a problem, figuring out what can be done to make things better. And I don't think it is any stretch of the imagination to say that politics in Kansas right now is not working. This is our solution. As far as experience, I have spent 10 wonderful years of my life volunteering with an organization known as American Legion Boys State of Kansas. It's an organization that focuses primarily on teaching young men the American form of government, specifically at the city, county, and state level. It is from that experience that I was able to meet such amazing people and fellow alumni of the program, Aaron Estabrook, who is our treasurer of the party. It was about 2 years ago, right about this time, that we sat down in his office and began speaking about all the issues that we feel like we see in government. There is just so many problems that it's almost too easy to list some of them. But as we discussed what the issue was, Aaron is cut from that same cloth that, well, what are we going to do to make it better? Because you can't just complain about a problem, we have to see it through and fix it. And so out of that conversation, the idea of a new political party was born. We are looking into making it a modern party for a modern Kansas. From there, we have rallied and tried to find the best folks that we can to do the job at hand. That's how we were able to meet the wonderful Sally Cobble, who, as I understand it, most of you are already familiar with today. But we came together with this idea of setting up a new party with a new way of doing things to make sure that this great and wonderful state that we call home is able to sustain itself into the future. Sally, do you want to tell a little bit about how we twisted your arm into doing this?
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sally Cobble, and my husband and I, Steve, we were in this community for 40 years, and Steve served the community by the way of taking care of people's eyes. He was a doctor of optometry. I served you by community activism, I guess you might call that, and was your school state board representative to the State Board of Education for 12 years, in which that's where I saw politics and action in Topeka. And can I say I became a little disillusioned? And over 10 years, I just saw a decline in how Kansas was operating, how we were electing our officials and how they represented us when they got to Topeka. And it disturbed me greatly. Probably mainly is because I saw what they were doing for public education in the state of Kansas. So Scott Poor, some of you know, he grew up here. He's an attorney, and he is our attorney for United Kansas. And he called me up and said, Sally, you want to help us with an initiative? We think it's time for a new party in Kansas. And I was saying, well, I'm still a registered Republican, but I feel left behind. I feel like I don't belong anymore. And in visiting with many people that I served with and across this district, I found many people that are disillusioned with their party, whether it's Democrat or Republican or whatever. They're just disillusioned. And I think the time has come that we need to look at change. Change does not have to be bad. It can be a positive change. I read this book, We Need More Parties. And in this book, I thought the author had an awesome way of presenting the issue that's happening in Kansas, where the Republicans used to have, we had moderates and we had conservatives. And that was the same in the Democrat Party. We had moderates and we had conservatives. But now our parties seem to be only conservatives and only
Liberals.
okay, so well, some of you are Democrats, and I don't want to offend you. No, the far left, okay? And there isn't anything left for us middle of the roaders, the moderates. And so there isn't a balance anymore in our government. And this book really puts that out on how new parties can help with this balance. And so when Scott called me, I said, oh, I'm too old. Now, look at who is with me today, you know? And looky, he's operating off of a cell phone, and I'm operating off of a paper. But isn't that the best thing to show to you that a party can be for all ages? And all we have to do is take care of business. That's what we're about. We're not about our party business. We are about your business and what you as a voter wants us to do. We want this party to be for those that vote for our candidates, for those candidates to be able to represent you instead of the party that they are elected. And so when Scott approached me, I said, I can jump on that. I can do that. And so that's how I went from being a picture up there to standing here with you today. And I hope that you can pick up our enthusiasm, and I hope that you listen to what we have to say today. Maybe there's somebody out there that you know that would like to be a candidate, because those of you that still believe you have to stay with a party to vote in the primary, I want to ask you, how is that working for you? How is that working for you? That day and age is gone. That is not going to come back in the state of Kansas. So we need to be smarter. We need to think outside of the box, and this is a way that we have come up to do that, and we hope that you will join us today in doing that. Now, I'm going to turn it over. Come on in, Nancy.
Hi there.
Hi. Hi, Nancy. It's great to have you join us. This is Brent Lewis. By the way, all four of us are on the executive team. And if you don't think it isn't a wonderful way of getting to work with the younger generation and putting a little oomph back in your life, these guys will do it for you. Aaron is our exec and our treasurer. He's grew up in Dodge City. He's been in the military. Brent is out of Wichita. He's going to be our moderator today. You know me. And then Chris. And I tell you, we can do it with this leadership. So, Brent, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. I'm going to ask Jack and Sally just a few broad questions just to give you guys a chance to take in some of that information. And then we'd like to have some discussion about what's on your mind and kind of how you see the dilemma that we face today.
Just a minute, Brent. The microphones are over here.
Over here. Oh, okay.
Please speak into the buffalo.
Okay.
We are recording today, so I want to
Yes.
make sure that, and we can move this chair out of the way, and you can stand right here between us.
Great.
I'm
Sal-
here to organize them.
Sally is great at telling us where to stand and where to sit. I would be lost without her.
And I can tell you, I left the U.S. Army in 2004, and I found out immediately I was one of 6 out of 10 Americans who feel like both parties do such a poor job of representing our interests that we really just have been waiting for a major third party to just give us more options. And I found that Gallup had that data that 6 out of 10 Americans since that time have been asking for the same thing. And in the infantry, if we think there's a problem, we go right at it, you know. And so that's what we're doing. We are going to go right at this problem. And so we're just going to talk to these two about it, and then bring you all into the discussion as we really start out just talking about why is United Kansas as a party the right solution, and why now?
Absolutely. So why now? First and foremost, if you see an issue, you need to work to fix it. I think that is one of the most straightforward answers. Growing up, military background with my family, I know the same experiences that a lot of folks around the room shared. If there is a problem, it needs to be solved, and there is no time like the present for it. As Brent said, Gallup poll shows that 6 out of 10, 3 out of 5 Americans don't believe that the current two-party system is working. I like that 3 out of 5 number just because the other 2 out of 5, well, one of them's a Democrat, one of them's a Republican who's just riding the wave. But on top of that, we also, in addition to Gallup, like to look at Kansas Speaks, which is a public opinion survey that's put out annually by Fort Hays State University, right up the road a good bit from here. And when we look at the data coming out of this public opinion survey, first off, no one else is going out and asking Kansans what they think the problem is, which is a real shame because I think this part of the country has very unique insight into what's going on. And if folks could listen to the Sunflower State a little bit more, we might be able to find a few more solutions in it all. But Kansans are looking for change. The last survey, or the previous survey from 2023 held that independent voters, folks who don't necessarily identify with the Democrats or Republicans, make up 22.5% of the population. And when we expand that to independent who lean left, independent who lean right, definitely a much fairer scope of folks who identify with that independent, that jumps to 50%. Half of Kansans don't readily identify with one of the two parties that is readily available in the state. And because of that, they are disenfranchised, they're unaffected, and it's allowing the situation to only go further and further to the extremes. So now is the time for us to put forward an opportunity. Now is the time for us to put forward an alternative. And with that, to be able to redo what a political party should be. It doesn't have to be these monolithic structures that are just trying to dictate aspects of folks' lives. We want to bring in a new party because now is the time for a new party, one that's going to listen to the folks, one that's going to make sure that every aspect of the state is heard, that it's not just the interests of Topeka or Wichita or Kansas City areas, but making sure that everybody has the opportunity to have their voice heard. Sally?
Okay. I think I expressed quite a bit of why I think it's time in my opening remarks. I would like to tell you that if we don't do something, we're going to get what we deserve. There are 3 issues at the state right now that they're not going to change if we don't do something. One is the legislature gets mad because they're told to fund public education, which we need desperately out in this area. And so that made them mad. And they've been mad at how many years since Gannon was there? Then you have the issue of the courts. And I'm not coming up with my 3rd one, but I'll come up with it later. Jack, you understand my problem?
Oh, absolutely.
But our courts are going to be run by one major party if we don't watch our judicial system. Because if they get mad at something, they have the power that we have given them as voters to do anything they want to. And what I really miss about Don being here is he explains to you, and there's several videos on him saying that when he served in Topeka, that if you didn't vote with leadership, you would lose your chairmanship, or you might be moved off of a committee as punishment. If you didn't vote a certain way, you would go back to the House floor and find out that your seat has been removed. Those are bullying leadership. Now, how can we tell our children in schools that bullying is not a form of leadership, but yet we stand by as voters and elect bullies? We let them get by with it, and we've got to do something to support those that we do elect to not have to, that they can stand up to those people. We are not doing either one of those as voters. And we need to get involved. We need to be active. A 3rd party, they can run, they can be there. They're going to be the deciding vote many times, and they will end up with the most power if we can get them elected. And so that's why I think time is now, and I really wish that Don could be here with him, and we send our prayers to him, because he explains to you exactly what it's like to serve in today's climate. And we have got to change that so they can serve us instead of a party.
Kansas is at a crossroads right now, and the choices that we're making today are going to affect the future and the generations that come after.
We're not going to be able to do this overnight. It's going to take a couple of years for us to build this up, but we got to get started.
And I can tell you as a longtime independent, and I celebrated my independence, being unaffiliated. I'm not with either of these parties, and they're not doing a good job. I have come to realize that has always meant that I've had no voice. And I never get to see my priorities asserted, right? And so I just kept complaining about choosing between the lesser of two evils, not realizing I was contributing to that problem because I was not trying to help and with any kind of effort to put those values into the arena, if you will. And so what I'd just like to ask you to is, can you just talk to us a little bit about the priorities that make United Kansas stand apart from two major parties right now, just trying to understand how we're trying to do politics a little differently.
Absolutely. So how are we trying to do politics a little differently? I love getting that question. United Kansas is trying to do politics differently because our true north, our compass, is always pointed towards Kansas. We are not part of any nationwide political party or movement trying to start anything. We are not having to play games with the good folks in Washington, D.C., and having to bow down to national interests and focus. When we talk about Republicans and Democrats, a lot of folks get the idea of Texas, Florida, New York, and California. But for United Kansas, it is all Kansas. It is a focus here, now, and on this state. First and foremost, with that, we want to make sure that Kansas has the economic opportunity to be able to support itself, to grow industries, to promote small businesses, local businesses here in the state, to support the great folks all around. Making sure that folks have the ability to be here. We don't want folks feeling like they have to move out of the state just to find a job, to be able to find affordable housing. We want to make sure that Kansans are taken care of. In addition to that, we believe in expanding health access for folks. The current system is not sustainable. My day job is working at one of the hospitals out of Topeka that we have, and seeing the folks coming in, good, hard-working folks that the system is not supporting. There's got to be a better way of being able to go through that. Sally?
Well, I would pick up on the education issue.
Absolutely.
We will not have public education in the state of Kansas in the way it's going. If we do have public education, it's going to be very small, and it's not going to be, it's going to be for all, but a lot of the money is going to be going to private schools. I, for one, believe in public dollars for public education, and not in the state of Kansas. To be an accredited school, you have to be accredited by the State Board of Education. And that doesn't matter whether you're a private school or a public school. So we're all the same. There is no statistics taken in the state of Kansas to prove that a public school is inferior to a private school. They all have to follow the same guidelines. They have to follow the same teacher accreditation. They have to follow the same standards. And so it's just a choice of lots of time religion, which I believe in the separation of church and state. And so that's one of our big issues. I do not want to see the state of Kansas follow Arizona, Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas into the realm of public and private education. We are following a model right now that the Republicans have put forth called ALEC, ALEC.com. And that is, they can lower the state budget by cutting funds to education. And that's what they're trying to do. You have to decide whether tax dollars are worth public education. But the statistics show that if we cannot, the only way to raise people into middle income is through education. And so, if we want a strong economy in the state of Kansas, we need a strong public education system. And the irony of it all is your tax dollars put with other people's tax dollars really provides a more inexpensive way of educating the public than when the people have to put money towards private schools. So I'm coming at it, and the time is crucial. They just got through keeping the state money level, and they decreased special education again this year. That's money that your local schools are going to have to take out of their regular funding to backfill special education. And so that's my big boo. We need to move forward. We need to save public education, and this is one way that I'm fighting to do it. The other ways that this, I'm going to take another one, okay?
Please do.
Let's talk about social issues. We are spending so much time in Topeka on social issues without getting to the real issues. We're spending time on 1% of the problem in the state of Kansas. This board has chosen to say to you, what happens in your family raising your children is between you and your family and between you and your doctor. Let's get politics out of our health care on a daily basis on what you as a woman want or you as a gender wants. That has no place in politics. That's family, and it's what you need is between you and your doctor and between you and your religion. It has no place in politics.
Now, with everything that we've outlined, making sure that Kansas businesses have the opportunity, we want to make sure that we're supporting all of our communities across the state and supporting education, making sure that the issues that we address in Topeka are the most important and necessary to be addressing in Topeka. Saving the best for last, our final and my personal favorite as far as what United Kansas stands for, is making sure that we're returning the voice to the people. The reason why we have come out, some of us driving several hundred miles to be here, is to hear from all of you, because a party is only as strong as the people that it represents. What is necessary for liberal Kansas may be a little different from Garden City, maybe a little different from Dodge, and almost certainly will be different from Wichita, Topeka, or Manhattan. And so this is critical to our core beliefs that in supporting Kansas, we need to go to the folks that we're supporting to be able to hear from you. And we're certainly going to take a little bit of time with that later to be able to hear what issues you're all seeing in your community. We certainly have our ideas, but they might not be the best. And we want to hear what you think might be the necessary steps to feel more secure in your communities. Brent?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the same thing I have, but politics have become increasingly destructive and seems to be just a cycle of retribution at this point. And I haven't seen how it's serving me in any way. And so really the kind of the question right now is, how can United Kansas as a party statewide here within our home state try to take us off of that path? What can we do to try to alter the destructive nature and kind of the polarized nature of our politics?
Political polarization, one of my favorite topics. You're going to hear me say that a lot, but they're all my favorite topics because I love taking the opportunity to speak to folks about it. Politics is just one of those unique topics that everybody has their thoughts, their views, their opinions of. Some of them are wrong, especially out on the very far extremes, but for the most part, we all have something that we can learn from sitting down and having a conversation with everybody about it. As far as how United Kansas is looking to combat the political extremism that we found ourselves in today, we're looking at doing that in a couple of ways. First and foremost, we are currently going through litigation to bring back what's known as fusion voting in the state of Kansas. Fusion voting was this great idea that was super popular right about 100 years ago in the early 1900s, and it was super prevalent across all of the United States in every state that we had up to that time. What fusion voting allowed was minor parties such as ourselves and the other historic minor parties that Kansas has had to nominate and cross-nominate with the major parties. So we are coming out and saying that we are for Kansas, we are for folks being able to listen to us and speak about everything. And so identifying those folks who are already part of one of the two major parties, because no one side has monopoly on good ideas. No one side has monopoly on bad ideas. And there are a lot of bad ideas out there, I can say. But being able to find those folks who we also believe in as believing in Kansas business, believing in our farmers, in our communities, and wanting to make it a better place. So you would see, let's say, John Smith as a Republican, great man, great individual, wants to make sure that his community is taken care of and Kansas is looked after. And then we will have Jane on the Democrat side, who, while not a bad person, just doesn't necessarily have some of the best ideas that we would be looking at. And so we say that John has the right stuff and is also the pick for United Kansas. So you would see John as a Republican, Jane is a Democrat, and then John again is United Kansas, and a vote for John is a vote for John. This is great because he's got wonderful ideas, but some folks, because of the political extremism, just aren't willing to vote for John because of that R next to his name. Well, this provides them that opportunity to vote for him. It also signals to folks that as a member of United Kansas, he's putting Kansas first and not going to just toe the party line and vote one particular way, as Sally pointed out. And at the end, these votes are fused together in order to provide that total. In addition to the fusion voting, bringing back that historic aspect to it all, we're really looking at wanting to make sure that every race, or as many races across the state of Kansas, are going to be taken seriously. For the last election, it was 49 races when uncontested. Now, that was a mix between both sides of the aisle, all across the state, but being able to really step up as a party and say that we're going to make sure that we've got the best folks running in these areas, and it's not just whoever felt like standing up that day being elected. So making sure that we're running the races in the areas that we feel like we can run through. This avoids that old terrible argument that third parties are just spoilers, because we are giving folks an alternative. And as Sally is fond of pointing out, we do need more parties. We need more discussion, more respectful discussion, less yelling, and more opportunity for folks to have their ideas heard, and for the current system to be respectfully challenged. Sally, anything you want to add to that, or?
Not really, I think you've covered it.
All
I would
right.
just like for all of the hate around politics to be removed, and that we respect each other's opinions a little more. And you touched on that, and so let's go on.
I'm back to the buffalo.
Yes, good for
Please.
you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a numbers person. I'm a financial planner is my background. And what I appreciate about fusion voting is I see accountability. Because right now there's just simply no accountability in politics. Whichever state you're in, there's a party that runs it, and there's no way to keep them accountable right now. And so if John gets in with his 55%, but 10% came from United Kansas, we can hold John accountable, because we can say, if you do not listen to more of your constituents and represent more of the interests, right, including United Kansas, then we could back someone else the next time. And we don't really have that right now. So I think that's very powerful to me about what Fusion could offer.
They have at their seats a piece of paper that has Fusion voting and a sample ballot.
And with or without Fusion voting, I am United Kansas all the way. What a wonderful tool if we can make this a possibility again. This next question is really going to start to lead us into a broader conversation. And we'd really like to hear your thoughts and questions, and we just kind of from here on just engage, right, with what's on your mind. I'm from Wichita, Sedgwick County. We often complain that we're not heard in Topeka because Johnson County's taking all the oxygen. So we got this kind of, are we the stepchild here? What's going on? And I understand Western Kansas sometimes has a feeling like that, like we're not being heard in Topeka.
Just a feeling.
So I think what we'd like to do now is just kind of talk about how can we ensure that the voice and the interests of liberal are heard in Topeka, and what can United Kansas do about that?
I will say, I know I've gone first on most of the answers, but Sally, as the native Western Kansan out here, what do you have to say about making sure that the good folks in Western Kansas are heard?
You have to participate. Do you know how hard it was to set up town meetings in Western Kansas? And how many people I had to call and to get them to even come listen to a different idea? I don't think this is what he wanted me to answer this, but you guys, we gotta stop being scared. We gotta stop worrying about if our business is gonna be hit because we believe a certain way. You, as an American, has the right to believe any way you want to. And we've got to bring that back. And we've got to stop being afraid and start stepping up. I heard a teacher the other day say in her classroom, kids just don't care anymore. Well, you know where they get it from? They get it from their parents. If the parents don't care, why should the kids care? If we don't care, why should anybody else care? The only way we're going to solve our problems is finding people that care. I'm so glad you're all here today. We have had in the state of Kansas a committee that the current governor I know has put together on rural issues and also on water issues. They're having trouble getting that stuff passed. And it's all not because of the need, not because it's not a good idea. Kansans came together for the solution of this. So why isn't Topeka doing it? Because they're bullies. Okay? They want it done their way. And we got to stop that. And the only way we can do it is become involved. And if you have anybody that wants to join you in your endeavors to learn something new, we can come back. We're going to be videoed. We're going to be recorded. And we are at the beginning. But let's find people that is strong enough to stand up. This state wasn't wimpy when it was discovered. We were not wimpy. We were strong people. Let's do it again. Let's take it back.
Let's not be wimpy. I really like that. So, how are we going to make sure that Western Kansas is heard? It's going to start exactly as Sally said, by being able to come out here and being able to make sure that we are in fact listening to the folks. It is atrocious that Kansans are able to stand up and say, this is what we need, this is what we're looking for, and the fact that that is not being addressed and taken care of. Our party is committed to making sure that Kansas is being served in their communities and in Topeka. We're not looking for a long list of donors who are going to dictate how we vote one way or another. We're making sure that folks are taken care of and looked after. And part of that starts with the discussions that we're having today and making sure that we're hearing from all of you what's important in your community, what's important to Western Kansas. I can tell you, as someone who has lived in Kansas City, someone who has lived in Manhattan, and someone who is currently living in Topeka, Topeka doesn't listen to Topeka. There was a pothole right outside my road for 6 months that we kept calling about, and nothing ever happened to it until my fiance drove over it, and it ended up popping her tire. And then it still took 3 weeks for them to fix it. But there's no place in politics left for this reactionary thinking. We have to be proactive, and that is why we're here today speaking to all of you to have this conversation.
We don't have to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to be mean. We don't have to be ugly. We just have to be consistent.
Absolutely.
I remember how outraged I was 15 years ago, I guess, when I first had learned about this study that said in Washington, D.C., in the Congress, a proposed legislation that had broad support, by far majority support, had just the same chance to pass as a bill that had no support from the public whatsoever. That public support made no difference for legislation. And unfortunately, it seems that's come to Topeka, where we see issues of have broad support or not being moved forward. And so this is an opportunity. We're going to talk a little bit later about like how could you engage, right, with this effort to build a united Kansas and broaden it from our, we have really participation across the state now, but it takes those teams of a few to really make something happen, right? What's the quote that a few people always create the change, right? A small number of people. So at this point, is there a question or maybe just a thought that you would like to share? Yeah, please.
Okay, an important issue is going to be on your ballot in August. The legislature passed legislation to change the way we select our Supreme Court justices from a nominating committee and the governor's appointment to an election. And if you all think about on your ballot when you have the retention for judges, you look at those and you don't know a thing about any of it. We don't need politicians on the Supreme Court, we need lawyers on the Supreme Court. So please vote no on that.
It's a constitutional amendment, Judge.
Yeah, there was just $100 million spent on a Supreme Court base in Wisconsin.
Yeah, West Coast.
$100 million to
So
elect
weird.
her.
Or to have Phil Klein on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Who never tried a case. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Sir.
I just wanted to make a comment, two comments. I've always been proud of Kansas, and even after reading this deal, Kansas, when I read about and studied in school, we were progressive. Now, progressive is not a dirty word. Liberal is not a dirty word. Conservative is not a dirty word. Republican is. Democrat. None of these are dirty words. And an individual can be progressive, liberal, conservative, whatever, all together. It depends on the issue. And that's its issue. And Kansas passed laws taking care of their employees way back in the early 20th century, way ahead of other states. But they took care of the employees. respect each other. You respect your opinions, you don't have to agree with me or anything, but don't demonize me. Quit calling me names. This sucks. And that's just my 2 points, so I'm all for you.
Okay.
Fantastic. We're so glad
Now-
to hear that.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, Jack.
Please go ahead,
So what I'm hearing is you say that we need to give the candidates that run for us the freedom to serve who they serve, and that our policies on what we as a party design need to be broad enough that the candidate can serve the people instead of the party. Is that what you,
Right.
okay?
You don't have to block voting, or you don't have to vote the same as Joe Blow tells you. Each issue is just like you said, our water issue out here and everything else we've had. This is our issue. This is drastic. It's gonna come to bloodletting down the road. Why aren't we working on it together? It's not just, and to your point, Brett, we feel that Central County and Johnson County treat us the same as Johnson treats you, okay?
I didn't even have a sneaky suspicion, I had already heard. Yeah, well, what else is on your mind? What are you seeing in politics? What can get better? Or even,
What did we say you like? What you want to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't mind getting me started. We have some real serious concerns with immigration and with the education. And when we get to the point where we tell people they can't go to school because they're not legal, that's wrong. We can't do that. We should educate people and let them become productive citizens. There was just an announcement yesterday that Head Start was going to be closed down. Yeah. Across the entire nation. That's $90 million for Kansas and hundreds of children and their families. And it's ridiculous, it's hurtful, it's mean. And it breaks my heart because those children don't deserve that. And they're not just all Mexican kids.
No.
We don't want to educate all those Mexicans. No, they're not. And they're attacking the most vulnerable, and it's not just children, it's handicapped people, I could go on and on.
I sat in a meeting to answer that for you. It's a little off of our party, but I sat in a meeting listening to, as they take away the Department of Ed in Washington, D.C., how is that going to affect Kansas? We really don't know yet, because even though they take Head Start, they might come back and do something else that looks like Head Start. All we're seeing right now is what's being taken away. We don't get to see what is being planned, which makes us think that nothing is being planned. And so, as I agree with you, because in kindergarten, our biggest gap is the kids coming in to kindergarten on their knowledge. And that's why Head Start was formed, that's why preschool was started. What do they have planned to solve that problem, and do they realize that problem's there? I think the message coming out of Washington, D.C. hits points that everybody goes, yeah, that needs to be done. But we have really no clue the effect. We have no clue what they're going to replace it with. So I really think that's something, Shirley, that we need to keep on our mind. And I think our schools are going to go through some tremendously troubled years in the next couple of years because of that. And we have members on our state board right now. We have 4 members on the state board, which is a 10-member board. You have to have 6 votes to pass anything. But we have a swing vote. But we have 4 members on there that do not believe that any federal funds should come to the state of Kansas anyway,
Which.
and it doesn't matter. So they vote all of that, and so if we don't, yeah. And they've already turned down federal funding for the schools. And so that's just more that our little pile that we got this year is gonna have to stretch next year. So the schools are already in that trouble. It's a problem. I just wanted to educate them on that. I'm sorry, it's off the topic. Passion.
Yeah, you look at those little kids, I mean, they talk about the scourge that they are. You look at it, they look in their big brown eyes, and you tell me that they don't have a right to our
Right.
services.
That saves the school money, what we do with the preschool kids.
Yes, we do.
There are
It really
It
does.
gives them a chance, I mean,
And that's
I agree.
fact-driven. And that's fact-driven. So,
What other issues do we feel like we're seeing in the community?
Well, and I have a question for you. This is something that really has been on my mind, and we're going to continue. We have time, to take care of anything that's on your mind. Do you know someone who would just be an excellent representative for you and your community, who will never go near politics because of its nature, because they just think I could never fit in with the two groups that I have before me, and I just wonder, can you see a person, who could just do great things for liberal in the state of Kansas?
yeah.
And think United Kansas opens another avenue. And when I mentioned that about being able to organize and saying, wait a minute, our priorities keep getting left behind, and it's always this lesser of two evils, and I'm done complaining, right? So it's like, who are those people that we can engage to say, well, you've got energy, you've got something to offer, right? Who are the people that might be open to getting in an arena if they thought it could be productive? Right? Now you could actually get somewhere with the things that we need. And so that's something that I just want you to be thinking about as we're kind of talking through this. What are the issues needing to be addressed? Who are the people who we need to start to engage to help us to take care of those issues and start to advocate maybe in a different way or with a different energy, if you will.
We want to make sure that we're providing local control back to the local areas for a positive political experience.
You can run for local things on the United Kansas ticket.
What are the prospects for this fusion building?
Well, so the history of fusion voting is really interesting if you're into that sort of thing. It was made illegal by a handful of statutes, and we are challenging it based on our constitutional right that Kansas has to political association and determination with it. The Kansas Constitution offers a little bit more than what only our federal Constitution might. And so that is the stance that we're arguing on, being able to associate as a party, as voters, and as with politicians that we see fit. Our petition was denied in the lower courts, which was to be expected, because this really does need to be taken up at the Supreme Court level for the state of Kansas. And so it is, the court system has a process and they're sticking to it. And so it is us following along with that. We currently have our appeal in. Aaron, have we heard any update on that recently?
So fusion's legal in New York, it always has been. So it's not a new concept that people haven't been able to figure out, but it's legal in New York, and then New Jersey was the second state that they litigated to legalize it. Kansas is third. So out of the 50 states, Kansas has got the most favorable so by 1901, the Republicans had taken back control of all the branches and banned fusion voting. It was never litigated. The justices at the time were all Republican. And so they refused and recused themselves from any lawsuits. So it's never gone through the justice system in over 120 years. And now we think if we get it to the Supreme Court, we have the conditions that are right for it to be re-legalized.
And, okay, Aaron, are we somewhere between the appeals court and the Supreme Court?
We've made a motion to the state Supreme Court to accept our case and overstep the appeals, the appellate court. Now, it's in the judge, it's up to the Supreme Court if they want to accept it or if they want to make us go through the appellate court first. We're hopeful that they accept it because we are running out of time for the 2026 elections. So if they make us go through appellate court and then to the state Supreme Court, we may not have fusion by 2026. That's kind of we're trying to get them to expedite the process.
And Don, we are in the place we are in the party because we've been working on the fusion voting instead of coming out into the communities and starting to build. And so this is our first attempt to get out in the state to try to start building our base and trying to find candidates.
So forming a third party is no problem, the fusion voting's gotta go to the.
You're
Right.
right. It would be so much easier. But we are a third part. We are another party in the state of Kansas. We've gone through all of that. So we are a party.
And fusion voting is a great opportunity. It is identifying the best individual and putting forth that opportunity to get them into the elected office where they need to be. It is not going to make or break us as a third party because, again, our true north, our shining light that we're going to be looking at is Kansas. Fusion is a great tool. It is an arrow in the quiver, but we are still committed to doing the right thing and listening to the folks all across the state.
You have in your seats an op-ed that Steve Morris and
Don Heineman.
Donna, yeah, I'm probably messing Brent up. Steve Morris and Don Heineman that have written on fusion voting, and you really need to read that. That's excellent.
And much to Aaron's point that he brought up, New York has always had fusion voting. My family is originally from all over parts of the Southland, and we moved around a lot, military growing up, and we're fond of saying if the Yankees up north can figure it out, then surely the great folks of Kansas can get it taken care of.
I think it's interesting that it's illegal already in the state of Kansas, but they came up with another bill this year. Was it a Senate bill? Senate 2050, yeah, House Bill 2056, that prohibits fusion voting in the state of Kansas again. So evidently we're making somebody nervous in Topeka if they think they have to make it illegal again when it is already illegal. I just thought that's a little humor.
Anything that shakes up the current system and makes the powers that be a little more nervous, I think, is a good thing for the common folks.
Well, and unaffiliated voters are the second largest group in Kansas. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? We have been, I mean, I say we because I was always unaffiliated for so long. We're a major force if we ever organize. You know, so we kind of have a mechanism now to organize more of that independent-minded, more of that, I would be center-right, but, you know, centrist or kind of moderate group. We have that opportunity. And we're, as a moderate party, we're looking at data, and we're seeing that a large number of the seats in the legislature are at play for a new party. Because, you know, having a united Kansas erases those old lines that people put so much, you know, time and effort into creating to divide and, you know, basically keep the old order. Well, we can just go erase those because we don't fit in either of those two boxes the same way.
One thing we found out is Republicans me, I'm not gonna register as a Democrat. But the Democrats, they're not gonna register as a Republican, Myra. I mean, so, you know, so we had the statistics at one time that showed people like me that they don't want to register as a Republican anymore are registering as something different. Do we still have those statistics?
That they're unaffiliated?
Yeah, they become unaffiliated.
Right.
Just in the last year or two,
Right.
people have switched a lot. Okay?
Part of the reason to register as a Democrat or Republican, you don't need to vote in the primaries if you're independent. I mean, you have no say at all.
Right.
So you end up registering. I changed registrations because of candidates and everything.
Well, how's that working for you staying in the party? Are you getting your candidate that you want?
On some, yes.
Okay.
On not every candidate, no.
Okay.
You know, not every candidate, heck no. But, you know,
Okay.
you know,
We don't.
if we had open primaries where you could vote in any one of them, some of the people unaffiliated would be fine with that because they could vote against the candidate of another candidate, you know what I'm saying? If you had open primaries, but we're never gonna have them, I know that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I have no problem being the third party.
and if we get turned down on fusion voting, we are still a party.
That's right.
But maybe there's some other avenues we would need to look at to try.
Well, we get them on the ballot, get our candidates on the ballot.
Absolutely.
It gets them through to the general election where so many of the good candidates get caught up and lose in the primary because the extremes
Right.
are turning out for either party. But this gets them to the general election. This gets them on where the majority of people, and you're not talking about closed or open because everybody gets to vote on the
Right.
general ballot.
Yeah.
Right. That's still that opening without fusion, I mean, you still.
Well, and to me, I wouldn't have to go through a primary, and that makes running less expensive.
Oh, yes.
Well, you
How,
threat of finding a primary challenge for you if you don't vote right.
Oh, absolutely.
That's right.
Sally, I think it's great that you said that. I just can't wonder how many great folks haven't run and haven't even had the consideration or the opportunity to run that would have done wonderful things for our state, just because of how prohibitive it is, and how expensive, having to play the game, shake the right hands, and impress the right people, when all they want to do is a good and the right thing with politics. I wonder how many folks don't because of that.
There's a lot of them in.
For sure.
Our challenge is old thinking. That's a challenge that this party has, because it makes you think different and it makes you change. And some of us have trouble changing because we've always done it that way. But it is so great to see the young people. They give me hope. And isn't it ironic that they come out of the military? People that are defending our country, and they are 3 people on the executive board. I think that says a lot for the party. That the military is stepping up, that have served us, they see it, and I just feel privileged to be with them.
Well, one thing that Brent mentioned earlier was about candidates, and so I was a city commissioner in Manhattan, I was on the school board in Manhattan. What I don't want to do is, I wouldn't want to subscribe to the Republican or Democratic platform and run for office, but as a nonpartisan person that was in local office, I got to see how government could work, how we could solve problems, how we could work across with Joe or Jack or whoever, and not worry about are they Democrat or Republican. They were just on the school board and they were leading the community to solve the problems for the students. And we did that. Now we step into the polarization of the state. they don't have to take on the baggage of the Republicans or the Democratic Party. They get to talk about solutions, and it's as close as you get to a nonpartisan step forward into the party as we can come up with.
We are nonpartisan partisans.
Yeah. And if you think about, if you look back over the last 10 or 20 years, think of the legislators who would have made more of a stand, or did, and then got pushed out, but if they knew, oh, I could run United Kansas, if someone says they're gonna try to push me out, well, I'll be on that next general election no matter what, and my people will back me. Maybe I just have to make this change with my affiliation, but now that's an option. So not too distant future, we have someone that says, hey, I think I need to do right for my community rather than what someone's telling me. They can now have that courage to say, I'm still gonna be on that ballot and my people are gonna put me back up here and you can't do anything about it. Because we're gonna get it done with a third option.
I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the opportunity that it's presented. I do want to kind of segue back a little bit. Are there any other issues that folks out in liberal Kansas, feel like is kind of eating your community alive?
We heard immigration. What about taxes?
I think I saw him.
Just, my daughter is a teacher, and she's an ESL teacher.
Sure.
Lived in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
She dearly loves her students,
Mhm.
and this last month has been hell for her and the kids. One kid went home, and his mother was gone. I've been there. Here's a phone number you can call, maybe find your mother.
Wow.
One kid got from, like, I don't know what country, Venezuela or something, and they said, well, you know, we can always send you to that prison in El Salvador if you don't go to Venezuela. What did the kid say? I mean, what would you do? She comes home in tears, you know?
I can understand that.
It's sickening.
It's not the country we grew up in.
Amen. That's not why she went in teaching, you know?
You know, in the 50s, we started a migrant program out here because as farmers, we used them with sugar beets and everything else, we brought them up, okay? My position on taxes, I pay taxes because those kids are assets. They're gonna grow up and they're gonna run our country down the road. My job is to find the best ways possible for them to learn and to think critically to be able to run the country well. And I don't care where they come from. I really don't. And, you know, if I asked one gentleman here, we was sitting in this very room, he was talking about, well, if they're illegal, they shouldn't get in-state tuition. I said, well, what about the people that come from Texas, spend 6 months, get residency, then they get in-state tuition? Well, where is that? And I said, are you kidding me? They do it all the time. Yeah, you know, they come here, they've been here, educated. My family is mixed. The father of 2 of my grandkids, he's in Mexico, he can't come back, but that's his problem.
That's not.
You understand what I'm saying? That's his problem. That's an individual. He came out, worked hard, he screwed up, he's back, but that's his problem. But don't punish the kids. They were born here, you know, and go to school here, you know. So if you're gonna, I don't know, this deal about you're not born here, you're not a citizen is just, how far back you gonna go,
Yeah.
you know?
None of us.
Well, that's all the rural hospitals out here. They're
That's right.
struggling.
Sure.
And forever, not, I understand why they refuse to do the Medicaid expansion,
Mhm.
which would benefit them. But, and talking about education, I understand somewhere around half the teachers in this part of the world are not certified teachers.
I really appreciate you bringing up the rural health clinics. That's an aspect in my day job that I've been able to see and kind of work with tangentially a little bit with what I do, working in the hospital like I am, and it is humbling and is eye-opening to be able to see how much these communities rely on these clinics. We call them critical access, we call them rural critical, and without it, folks not being able to have any sort of health, and that is just a non-starter for anybody. Not being able, and it's the simplest things, not being able to go and get taken care of because you stepped on a nail, and you could bandage it up. We always make the joke in my house of just pouring a little whiskey on it, here's what ails you. But being able to go and really make sure that's taken care of, and then it becomes infected, and then in a few years, maybe you're losing a foot, all because your rural health clinic didn't get the support that it needed, or you had to pick between being able to make a payment to the bank for anything, or having to go to the hospital. Folks shouldn't have to make those choices.
Do you look at the immigration problem as a federal problem or a state problem?
Or both. Well, it's a complex issue, okay? Look, we've recruited, and I say we as businesses, whatever, we've recruited these people to come up here and work if they couldn't find workers, okay? Every war we fought, after we left the war, we brought the people over. It doesn't, you know, we had trouble finding translators for Burmese that came over because they was, you know, Garden and Liberal, you know, you gotta find translators. The things you go through, they come here and they work hard. My neighbors, they're hard, all of them are hard workers. We live together. And, I know when I was mayor of this town, I went to grand openings and I listened to their stories. I made these boots when I was 8 years old, just south of El Paso. And now I own a boat store, but I worked 16 years at National Beef to save my money so I could buy a boot store. To me, that's American dream. And, you know, I can go anywhere and eat different kinds of food all over this town. So I think it's an asset to us. So it's different colors on their buildings. Who cares? They're keeping them up and stuff. It's in every society. Doesn't matter what color, what race, you got idiots that screw up. Don't put us all in a box and say the same. Just, you know, don't, and not all of us white people are racist, not all, you know, what I'm saying is, Jesus taught us to love everybody, and that's just the way it is.
They're not getting free things, and they're not, you know, getting more than my share. Trust me, you go see their house, go see how little they have to eat. Do you know how many kids haven't eaten? How many little kids walk to school in the snow because their parents have to be at work at 4 in the morning, but their parents make sure they're at school, and they're not getting anything free, you know?
People gripe about them getting checkup when they come here. Well, I'd sooner have them see to be healthy than,
Amen.
you know, instead of coming, because I've heard that argument. I've been here since '73, I've heard that argument. I said, why wouldn't you have health people, you know, at least check them out, see what they got. You know, we all live here and together. It's about us working together. I mean, I came from a community that was Protestant German. I was the only non-German there, but I learned German so I could get along with the people and serve the groceries and everything, you know. Because back when I was growing up, you didn't date Catholics, or Catholics didn't date Protestants. You understand what I'm saying? You know, and it's just the way that it's our community.
It is. When I went to a Catholic college, my aunts and uncles called and said, "Are you going to let her go to a Catholic school? Oh, let's get past that kind of crap." You know?
But immigration really is a federal thing, but it makes a lot of difference what the states are doing. But
Sure.
like the nonsense down in Texas, where they try to claim it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a federal thing, but it makes a difference what
Well, and
grassroots are doing.
one making the statement that a lot of significant changes originate in Kansas. And United Kansas is about the state, and some of these issues are complex and we can only control so much, what we can control here. You should know that there are other efforts around the country starting up. So it's not, Kansas isn't alone in this. There's a United Wisconsin now. They've just started up. There are other efforts in Michigan and on the East Coast where there's new parties that are saying we want more of a middle or, at least a different path, but generally this middle path. So even though we may not be able to directly affect, some aspects of some of these issues, we're not alone in trying to change the process and the culture, even nationally. If we could get our affairs in order here, and others are doing some of that, then maybe bottom up we can see some change, where it also matters.
Our goal is to not come down as a party and say, this is everything that's important, and these are the only things that we're going to work on. We have enough folks in our lives telling us where to sit, where to stand, how to do it. Now, I am appreciative of where Sally tells me where to sit and how to stand, and hey, you need to be in Liberal by 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. And me figuring out, okay, so I've got to get up at this time and pack and shave and leave. But to Brent's point, what he said, the goal is not to create another party that is going to come from the top down and just tell you how to vote, tell you to line up with this because the other folks are the devil and they're not going to do anything about it. It really is us wanting to come together and build a strong base with all of you, and hopefully you will all join us in this endeavor as partners, as members of this United Kansas community that we are hoping to set up that will stretch all the way from Atchison to Colby, down here to Liberal, Pittsburgh down in the bottom right, and all across this wonderful state.
So now the question is, what can we do to help?
Well, I am just tickled pink that you would ask that. Sally really leaned into it earlier. First and foremost, it is, I am so very fond of saying how excited I am about United Kansas and the opportunity that it presents, because it is new and it is exciting. And it is not just because my degree in political science, or telling myself, I didn't go to college with the idea that I'm going to start my own political party and in 10 years I'm going to be sitting in Liberal Kansas speaking to everybody about it and it's going to be the next best thing. I was excited for the opportunity to make a change and to make a difference. And so being able to take that excitement, I hope all of you will take that excitement with you today. Excitement for something new, excitement for change. I don't want to sound too much like an old camp commercial, but there is a little bit of hope that it brings. So being able to just tell folks, hey, there is a new opportunity around, there is a new political party that actually wants to listen to us. What an amazing idea that is, and being excited for it. Being able to reach out to the folks who you know and have that discussion. The U.S. as a whole, but Kansas in particular, is not nearly as divided as we might think politically. And it is so much easier to go out and just have a conversation with your neighbor. And we would love for you to be able to have those conversations with your neighbors. We have some buttons and some of the buffaloes. One example of which we have been very clearly speaking into for today. Aaron has been wearing his button since he got it, just hoping someone was going to ask him, hey, what's that? And I love when folks ask me, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And I can say, I'm driving 400 miles out west to go and talk to folks about this new political party that we have, that all of us have started, because this endeavor, like every endeavor, like life, is a team sport. So finding folks, getting engaged, speaking to them about who we are, what we're looking to stand for. We have a website, and all forms of social media, some that I hadn't even heard of, where we're always looking to provide folks with more information. And then, much to the question that we posed earlier, do you know someone who would make a great candidate who does not fit into the box, that we can help support, help stand up, and start making the effective changes out here? Finding those folks, we'll take a little bit of time here at the end to kind of circulate, answer any questions that you might have, a little more one-on-one. I have a handful of business cards with me that I would love to hand out, and anybody that you think would be receptive to what we're trying to do, please put them in contact with us. Please stay in contact with us. This is new. It is very new, and we are still trying to figure it out, but we know we're going to be able to do this together as United Kansas. Sally?
I'll tell you some things that is happening in Wichita that they have decided to do. They're starting a Buffalo Club. And as you can tell, Buffalo.
We're very proud of our Buffalo.
And they're going to meet once a month and for lunch and talk about United Kansas and maybe see if they can come up with some candidates. And it's just, I don't know if you all were familiar in Wichita with a group called the Pachyderms. It's a Republican group that ended up with over 150 at one time that met once and they discussed the issues and whatever. Well, the gentleman that started the original Pachyderms is going to start the Buffalo Club in Wichita, because the Pachyderms in Wichita have gone very far right, very far right.
All
So,
right. You're right.
well, they've gone somewhere. And,
They've left the people behind.
well, some of us got left behind and they wouldn't want us even there. But, so they're starting a Buffalo Club, which, you know, it only takes 2 people to have lunch, to say you're. So, the group that's here, if you would want to meet for and think up some things, we are always in contact. I have one lady that is very active in a sorority that she's going to have a coffee. And one of us is going to the coffee. We don't know which one. Not here, but that's in Wichita. But it can be here. We can either come in by Zoom. I have a driver.
Would you like to wave to everybody?
I have a driver. But, you know, some of us can come and be here in person. We know that this cannot be our only trip to Liberal.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be better if you brought us in now, since we've been here. If we need to have another town hall meeting, we'll have another town hall meeting. Aaron is recording this, so hopefully it's going to come out to where you could play it at any time at anything you want to get together. Now, Dawn there meets with a bunch of attorneys.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Whenever, you know, 1 or 2 attorneys get together, but he can talk about this. He might want to show some clips of this.
They were interested yesterday.
Yeah, and they didn't show up today, but he can keep talking. Maybe they would start the Buffalo Club, you know?
Why
Be-
not, if you have a community that has a very slanted newspaper, how can you get some articles in when
This is the funniest thing about, because I was here, I know the newspaper. Aaron had the best luck getting into liberal media of any town that we've been trying to get into. And the radio station was very cooperative, and the
both radio stations would be, yes.
yeah, and then the newspaper is printing this op-ed piece for us. So, and she was here. We'll see what happens. They still take letters to the editor.
I think to answer your question also, I would be remiss if I didn't, as treasurer, mention that one thing people can do is donate. I'm really disappointed not to hear that as a, come on, guys.
Well-
We need donations, we need volunteers, and then your influence with your circles and your peers to start those lunches, to start those breakfasts, talk to your churches, talk to your friends, wear a button. The ask is really easy. We're just wanting you to get involved and represent Kansas.
Well, and Shirley and Dawn, by phone, said that they might be able to chair a committee. So if you get elected officials, contact them and maybe they can help.
Well, and liberal, honestly, it's very hard to find somebody who's open-minded.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Liberal's a wonderful town. I love it. I love the people. I belong to two state organizations that are easy to talk to. But the local organizations I belong to, and they're my friends, but
Yeah.
they're Republican, beyond Republican.
Well, we have two towns we couldn't even get into.
Huh?
We had two towns I couldn't even set it up in.
Yeah.
So we understand the problem. You gotta chip away. Hopefully this will help. And, there may be people out there that kinda wanna run, but just don't know.
Well, and there are people that are really interested in this,
Yeah.
but we got to them too late. They had plans.
But those of you that are here, you can give money.
Yeah.
All you have to do, to even join the party, all you have to do is go to the site, unitedkansas.com. There's this button on there that you push. Shirley had a little trouble with it, but you push it. And you can register on the site.
It said it took me, and then I get a letter in the mail that says I'm Republican.
Yeah. Well, we've had a little trouble.
So, some
So
of that,
we need to go change the registration then?
You can.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. You can be whatever you want and support the United Kansas Party. But you can register United Kansas.
When we have
Which
our
we-
convention, only party members will be able to vote for candidates.
Sure.
That's the only limitation. So it's similar to the primary where it's closed to party members. But otherwise, it makes sense to stay sometimes as affiliated with one of the major parties so you can be involved in their primary.
Primary, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to share, as the party came into being, we had a couple of candidates just early on get out there and just give it a go up in Leavenworth County. Fairly conservative and.
military.
Yeah, military community up there, and they had a positive experience, and they outperformed Laura Kelly in those districts as far as going against a traditional Republican candidate. Made it very close, and their experience, they did not go through the which party are you with, and slam the door, whichever way. They actually had people engage. So they had really a great experience doing this. And so we're having this challenge with people who are active in politics, but voters are ready. Voters are like, more options, great, right? It's not just Taco Bell and McDonald's, I get another option too, right? I mean, it's kind of that simple. And so voters actually were very positive. And on shoestring budgets, like I said, they outperformed what people really thought was even possible. So I'm highly encouraged by those experiences.
We've spent a lot of time talking about it, but everybody is ready for something different. And being able to bring that up, being able to have that discussion, you're absolutely going to have a lot of folks who say, this is the dumbest idea ever, why would you put your time and energy to it? My immediate challenge, this is fun, but I have a twisted sense of what's fun. Being able to stand up and say, hey, we're trying something a little bit different, and nothing wrong has ever come from that. All right. We are, it is
We made it.
11:35. I know we still have the place until noon.
There's plenty of cookies and coffee.
Yes, please.
Stay and visit with each other.
For sure. I don't want to just sit up here and politely stare at everybody. I get enough of that at my day job. So being able, I'd really love for us to take this time. I'd love to visit with everybody. As I said, I have some business cards I would love to hand out. It has a direct line of contact if you ever have any ideas, questions, comments, concerns, or once we're done recording, maybe even some rude remarks. We wouldn't love to hear them, but we certainly want to hear them because we're working on this just as much as anybody else would. Please take a buffalo. We love sending our herd out into the world, into the wilderness, as it were. Take a button. Maybe someone will ask you about your button before someone asks Aaron. That would be just perfect. And please engage. If you can donate, it is an endeavor, but one we feel like worth fighting. Thank you all so much for joining us and being here.
Thank you.